name is Paul, 30 years old. I work as an illustrator, but I also work as a janitor as well. I started my job as an illustrator a few years ago, but I've been working in my job as a janitor since I was in high school. When I was in high school, my father collapsed due to illness. My mom was only working part-time, and that wasn't enough for our family finances, and my little sister Paige was still in middle school. As a result, I started working part-time as a janitor while attending high school. After I graduated, I continued on working at that same company. Although my father's life was in danger at one point, these days he's regained his health, and my mom has returned to being a full-time housewife. On the other hand, I continued after that working as a janitor. I really like the cleaning company that I'm still working at today. There were a lot of older people working there that were good at looking after others, and everybody treated me well like I was their own son. However, even though I like everybody at the cleaning company, when it comes to the people at the company that I've currently been assigned to, I don't have a very good impression of them. That company was a very big company, and the CEO really looks down on us janitors. When I walked into the office with my cleaning material, he once yelled at me not to come into his room in such dirty clothing. And when I ran into him in front of the elevators once, he yelled at me that the janitors need to take the stairs. Also, the CEO has an only daughter named Nancy, and that Nancy, every single time she would run into me while I was cleaning, she would say things like this to me.
Oh my, Mr. Janitor, good work. It must be hard to be a peasant, that you always have to work in such dirty places.
This person, if she didn't say things like this, she would be a beautiful woman. And without thinking, I let out a sigh.
Hey, why are you standing there looking like this is a chore? I'm the CEO's daughter, and I'm taking up my time to talk to you. How rude of you.
I'm very busy, so if you'll excuse me. No matter what the CEO or Nancy said to me, I would always quickly brush them off in this way. I know that there were a number of people in this world that discriminate against people based on their job, but actually, currently, I live in a luxury high-rise apartment building. I had gathered a pretty good amount of success as an illustrator, and last year I moved into this luxury apartment building. Actually, the reason why my father's illness was cured was also because I was able to pay for his surgery fees. Even though I can live more than comfortably with my job as an illustrator, the reason why I wasn't really able to quit my job as a janitor is probably because I like the people of the company that give me a job there. Then one day, I knocked on the CEO's door because I needed to clean his office, but it was at that moment.
Dad, you're not thinking enough about all of the employees.
Suddenly, I heard the voice of Nancy yelling from inside the office.
All you ever think about is your own profit. I've had enough of it.
I started to hear footsteps storming, and Nancy came out flying with anger from the CEO's office. It seemed like she was pretty shocked that I was standing there, but she quickly turned her neck and disappeared somewhere. Was that a father-daughter fight? Well, it's none of my business anyway. However, about 1 month later, on that day, I was working at home in my illustrating job. Before noon, I started to get hungry, so I was going to eat lunch outside, and I got into the elevator of my apartment and got to the lobby, but at that moment...
What?
To my shock, Nancy was there, and not only that, but she was holding a mop, and on top of that, she was wearing the uniform of a janitor. What? That uniform!
But what are you doing here?
I was shocked, but it seemed like Nancy was also pretty shocked. Actually, in addition to my job as a janitor, I also work as an illustrator. And I found enough success that I'm able to live in a luxury apartment like this. That's why, no matter how many rude things you said to me, it never bothered me at all.
Is that so?
Huh? What is this? I thought she was going to get more irritated and become frustrated with me. But instead, Nancy's face seemed a little bit quiet and sad. And then...
I want to deeply apologize for all of my rudeness until now.
What? What's this person suddenly... What is she apologizing for?
I cut off all ties with my father because my father wasn't thinking about the feelings of his staff at all. But there's no point in me talking to you about this, is there? To tell you the truth, I had always admired you.
What?
You were always working so hard, and I really admired you while you were working. But I have such little experience with relationships, and I just didn't know how to approach you well.
Hey, even if she says something like that, all of a sudden, I thought this person was always belittling me.
But at this point, I've already quit the company, and I'm in no place to be getting into a relationship, so things like that, I need to throw them away.
You quit your company?
Yes. Also, the cleaning of this apartment building, they're actually just letting me do it for a short time. But after this period is over, it means I won't see you anymore. But really, to run into you like this, to be able to apologize in the end, I'm glad. Well, I said some really terrible things to you, so I'm sure you won't be able to forgive me, but, well, then I'm busy, so if you'll excuse me.
As she said that, Nancy resumed her cleaning. I was completely stunned, but also, for her to say out of nowhere that she admired me? Of course I'd be shocked. When I looked over at Nancy, she was cleaning and working really hard. And when I looked at the side of her face, I almost felt sorry for her. I wonder if there's a reason behind all of this. However, earlier when I was practically bragging to Nancy about living in this luxury apartment building, what an embarrassing guy I am. Those are not things that you should talk about yourself. I'm still third rate. I felt bad about what I did, and after I ate lunch and came back to the apartment building, Nancy wasn't there anymore. The next day, on that day, I was also working from home, but a part of me started to wonder if Nancy might be there again, because even though she was the CEO's daughter who seemed like she had such a bad personality, she was working so hard to clean our apartment building, and she looked really motivated. And on top of that, it seems like there's a reason behind all of this, and yet I tried to look down at her. But the fact is that up until now, she had also said all kinds of terrible things to me. Whenever I remembered that, it did make me irritated again, but I can't help but wonder if something happened to her. Oh, well, maybe while I go to get a coffee from the vending machine, I can also go and take a look. And so, around the same time that I ran into Nancy yesterday, I went down in the apartment elevator and went outside of the building. It was at that moment, next to one of the flower pots, I saw Nancy holding her stomach and crouched over like she was in pain. What? Wait, Miss Nancy? Nancy's face was so pale that it definitely wasn't normal. I panicked, and I immediately called an ambulance on my phone. However, in the middle of me making the call...
I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry.
Mom? From there, Nancy started sobbing intensely, and for the time being, I just held her steady. The ambulance finally arrived, and I got on the ambulance along with Nancy. At the hospital, Nancy was diagnosed with an inflamed stomach due to stress. They said it must also be from being overworked. With the doctor's advice, Nancy was going to be hospitalized for a short while. And so, for now, I decided to go home, but I couldn't help but to be really curious about Nancy and the way she was crying about her mom. The next day, I decided to visit Nancy in the hospital. She was thin and frail, but her face didn't seem like she was suffering as much as she was yesterday, and I was relieved.
I'm very sorry about yesterday, and I've caused trouble to your workplace as well. I'm sorry.
You were not feeling well. There's nothing you could do about that.
But I'm in no place to be saying things like that. Actually, right now my mother is sick with a heavy illness.
What?
My parents got a divorce when I was still in elementary school. I was taken in by my father, but I had been told growing up that the reason behind the divorce was because my mother cheated. However, the other day I received a phone call from my mother, and the reason for the divorce was because every day my father was verbally abusing my mother and emotionally tormenting her. My mother told me that, and then she told me that she has heart disease now. My mother, she never cheated.
So that happened.
And apparently my father only agreed to my mother's divorce if she swore she would never try to contact me or speak to me again. Apparently my mother always wanted to see me, but she was already so mentally beaten down that she could only do as she was told by my father. But then the other day my father told her my phone number, saying that he cut off all ties with me and she could contact me as a dying gift. He's the worst person. However, even though my mother was so kind, I didn't believe her, and I'm also the worst.
No way! You were still in elementary school at the time, right? It's understandable that you would be confused.
You're very kind. Thank you.
When Nancy smiled gently, even though she looked exhausted, she almost seemed ephemeral. And she was beautiful, almost like a goddess. This woman. In truth, she's actually a really kind person.
If my mother can receive surgery from a famous surgeon, it seems like they may be able to save her. But in order to do that, it's going to cost a lot of money.
Is that why he started working as a janitor?
Yes, and a number of other jobs. But wait, why am I talking to you about all of these things?
But a story like this, in reality, it's not something you can just talk to anybody about, but when you're mentally spent, I understand wanting anybody to listen. That can happen. I didn't even take a second to think, and I stood up. Miss Nancy, will you please let me help you?
Huh?
That money that you need, I'll lend it to you. Later on, I also thought, why did I say that so quickly at that time? But I realized that at that point, I had already fallen pretty hard for Nancy. I really am an easy guy, as embarrassing as it is. In the beginning, Nancy said,
No, but the money that's required for my mom's surgery is an enormous amount. I can't accept. I can't cause that kind of trouble, too. I cannot do that.
And she stubbornly refused. No, it's okay. I have the money, and as long as you pay it back to me someday.
No, it's not okay.
This back and forth continued for a while, and we weren't able to come up with a conclusion. And that was when I decided to call my little sister Paige to the hospital. Actually, my sister was currently working at a law firm, and in order to make her dream come true ever since she was a little girl to become a lawyer, she's studying super hard. When Paige arrived at the hospital, I explained the situation to her, and...
Interesting. I see. So, Paul, that's what's going on. Really?
Paige was grinning as she looked over at me. What the heck? And then...
Interesting. Miss Nancy, she's a beautiful woman, isn't she?
And she whispered that in my ear. It seems that she had completely noticed the crush that I already had on Nancy. I was so embarrassed that my face turned bright red and I couldn't talk.
All right, then. I can prepare the contract to lend the money. No, really, I can't. It's a huge amount of money.
Even after Paige arrived, Nancy continued to reject borrowing any money from me.
Hey, Paul, can you leave for a second?
Huh?
I'm going to convince Miss Nancy, so get out. Get on out.
Hey! And she said that. Paige practically forced me and kicked me out of the room. But a few minutes later, Paige came out to get me and told me to come inside. And then...
Mr. Paul, thank you very much.
And just like that, Nancy agreed to borrow the money from me. Later, even when I asked Paige what she said to Miss Nancy to convince her, she would only giggle and she refused to tell me. And so, after Nancy was discharged from the hospital, I fronted the payment for her mother's surgery fees. A few days later, I received a phone call from Nancy that the surgery was successfully completed. Is that so? I'm happy to hear that it went well.
Yes, she still needs to be hospitalized for a while, but to thank you, I would really like to treat you to dinner, Mr. Paul.
What? There's no need. I did this because I wanted to.
No, please, I'd like to invite you over to have dinner.
Huh, what? What? To your house, Miss Nancy?
Yes, it would be food that I make.
Homemade cooking. Obviously, I'm gonna want to eat that, of course. And so, I went over to Nancy's apartment. Her house was a small, simple-looking apartment.
Oh, please wait a few moments. I'm going to heat up the soup again.
I sat down and I was watching the back of Nancy, and she stood in the kitchen. If we were to get married, does that mean that I'd be able to see Miss Nancy like this every single day? Wait, what the heck am I thinking? I immediately shook my head from side to side. But it was at that moment. Through the crack in the curtain, I saw the balcony, but... Huh? Those are men's underwear! There was flashy-colored men's underwear hanging out on the balcony. Oh, come on, that means Miss Nancy, she has a boyfriend. But of course she does. Nancy is beautiful anyway. There's no way that a woman that's this strong and wonderful would be single. Silly me. I got carried away, and what am I doing coming all the way here feeling like this? But then...
Mr. Paul, thank you for waiting.
Nancy brought out the food. Oh, yes. From there, I remained silent as I ate her home-cooked meal, but...
Was the taste not to your liking?
Nancy looked worried as she looked over at me. I let out a sigh and put my chopsticks down, and I decided to just ride all my feelings and said this. I already knew that I didn't have a chance, so at this point, I had nothing to lose. I like you, Miss Nancy.
Huh? Mr. Paul?
But if you have a boyfriend, then my feelings towards you are nothing but trouble. I'm sorry.
Huh? Boyfriend?
As long as you're happy, Miss Nancy, then that's all I need. But for me to be able to enjoy your homemade meal like this, I feel bad to your boyfriend, so I'm going to leave. Thank you very much for the meal. It really was delicious. Goodbye.
Wait a minute, please, Mr. Paul.
It's okay. I'll continue to pray for your happiness.
Wait, listen, I don't have a boyfriend.
Yes? Is that so? Wait, what?
Where did you get that misunderstanding from?
Because on the balcony, there's men's underwear. When I said that, for a moment, Nancy was confused, but then she started giggling.
Oh, that was just for defense.
For defense? To my shock, it was a misunderstanding. No, because I was so shocked, and I got carried away and ended up confessing my feelings. But come on, If I backed down now, I'd be a rotten man. I sat back down on the spot and I looked straight at her. Miss Nancy, I like you. Will you please go out with me?
Yes, I look forward to being your girlfriend.
And so, this is how Nancy and I became a couple. A few years later, we were engaged, and at the wedding, Nancy's mother also attended in a wheelchair. Her mother was crying such giant tears of happiness, and she said thank you to me over and over again. It made me cry too. Nancy and I and my mother-in-law, currently we're living together. She's steadily recovering. As for Nancy's father, it was discovered that he was embezzling a huge amount of company money, and to our shock, he was arrested. Apparently, he was hated by all the employees, and the employees all teamed up together and launched an investigation. And that was how it was discovered. That company ended up being taken over by the vice president, who Nancy also respected. After the wedding, Paige and Nancy and I were talking together, but that reminds me, on that day, if you hadn't been able to convince Nancy to sign the papers to let me lend her the money, we might not be married right now. So, thank you, Paige.
But actually, on that day, Paige told me that you had a crush on me. Did you know that?
What? What are you talking about? This is my first time hearing it.
The moment I also met Miss Nancy, I also thought how wonderful it would be if someone that lovely became my sister-in-law. At that time, Miss Page had already seen through my feelings as well, and if I were to cut off my connection to you, then Paul, she told me that I may never be able to see you ever again. And it was true. If you hadn't paid for the surgery expenses, then I would have had my hands full with so many jobs that I wouldn't have even had time to approach you, which means that I just wanted to have a connection with you, and I signed those papers with this ulterior motive.
No, I was the one that lent you the money with ulterior motives, so...
But the both of you weren't just thinking about yourselves. Your priority was because you wanted to help somebody else. And that's probably why you were able to find happiness together like this. I hope you live happily ever after.
Thank you for watching! What kind of crazy people will we get to see next? Stay tuned for more!